Ed Robertson, and this is the Mountain and Prairie Podcast, where I introduce you to some of the innovative and creative individuals who are shaping the future of the American West. I meet most of these people through my work in ranch brokerage and land conservation, or through my hobbies and interests that revolve around spending time up high in the mountains. My guests include ranchers, writers, entrepreneurs, conservationists, athletes, artists, adventurers, pretty much anyone who's doing important work and has an interesting story to tell. My guest today is Mark Maggiori. Mark is an artist who has taken the Western art scene by storm with his dramatically realistic paintings of cowboys, horses, landscapes, and scenes from the American West. But painting is only a small part of Mark's journey as a professional artist. He's also an accomplished director, filmmaker, drawer, photographer, and musician, and he's worked for companies like Disney as an illustrator, and he's fronted a major label rock band. To make his story even more interesting, Mark was born and raised in France and is a relative newcomer to the western United States. When he was 15, Mark took a road trip across America with his adventurous uncle, igniting his passion for western landscapes and planting a seed for his western art career that would flourish 2 decades later. Between then and now, he's demonstrated an uncanny ability to dive headfirst into a wide array of artistic endeavors with single-minded focus and work ethic, enjoying success at every level. A little over 3 years ago, at age 36, all of Mark's talents and experiences melded together when he decided to try and paint his first cowboy. In what he describes as an epiphany, Mark immediately knew that he had found his true identity as an artist. Mark and I had a fun conversation. We did our best to cover his prolific career in what seemed like a very short amount of time. We talked about all the stages of his career and how he has approached each one with a laser-like focus and uncompromising work ethic. Mark explains how he discovered his talent for drawing, a talent that he had no idea he possessed until after he was enrolled in art school. We also chat about how being new to America has afforded him a fresh perspective on the people and landscapes of the American West, which shine through in all of his paintings. He gives details on his workmanlike approach to painting and ensuring the historical accuracy of his work, and how exercise helps to fuel his creativity and work ethic. As usual, we talk about his favorite books, documentaries, and the craziest thing that's ever happened to him in the outdoors, which is a pretty ridiculous story. Be sure to check out the webpage for links to all of Mark's work, for information on his upcoming solo show in Los Angeles, and everything else we discuss in this episode. Hope you enjoy. So the way that I start out these interviews is I ask people, if you meet somebody for the first time, never met them before, and they ask you, what do you do? How do you answer that?
Well, I'm stoked because I actually now have an answer. There's been like 15 years of my life when I didn't have an answer because I was doing too many things, and it's so funny that you're asking that because it always been something back then that was kind of like bugging me. I was like, damn, I mean, what am I? Like, am I a singer? Am I a director? Am I a photographer? Am I an artist? What is it? So, and kind of like, the last 15, 20 years, I've been trying to narrow down to the one thing that I should be doing.
Yeah.
And it was hard because, I was passionate with so many things. And so I basically now say I'm a fine art painter, which, because I figured in America, when you say painter, a lot of people think that you're painting walls.
Yeah.
Especially because I have long hair, beard, and usually dirty pants. So they're like, yeah, this guy is, and I have an accent. Yeah, this guy is a painter for houses. So I precise fine art, and then they're like, oh, what are you doing? What do you paint? And I go, well, I paint cowboys. Oh, really? That's interesting. So yeah, that's how it starts. But yeah, it always been a thing. Like I used to do a lot of different things, and I wouldn't be able to answer. So for a long time I was saying artist. But I always thought artist wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And so here I am, a fine art painter.
Well, I think artist is a perfect description, because when I was researching your background and looking into it, I feel like you've done just about every single thing that an artist could do. You've painted, you do photography, drawing, filmmaking, directing, music. It's pretty cool, and I want to get into all that. But I think the first thing I want to talk about is what we were talking about just before we started recording, that you and I share a challenge with our my Eastern North Carolina accent and your accent. And when we show up in the West, sometimes people will look at us and say, now, where are you from? So, so where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a small town called Fontainebleau.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you the writing if you want, so you don't misspell it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not easy, but yeah, it's like an hour south of Paris. So it's pretty central, but it is actually like one of the biggest forests in France. And there is some really apparently amazing rock climbing that's going on out there, which I had no idea. It's somebody that rocks climbing in Yosemite who told me, dude, where you born is like the best place to rock climbing in Europe. And I was like, what? And so yeah, apparently but I knew, I mean, the forest is pretty amazing. So I basically grew up there, and I was just spending my childhood running, in the woods and being around trees. So yeah, and then from there, I moved to Paris when I went to art school after my graduation high school.
Got it.
And I was in Paris, city slicker.
Yeah, that is city slicker. So in between growing up in art school, I read that you and your family came to the U.S. and you did a cross country road trip from New York to the West Coast, and that was your first introduction to the American West. So could you talk a little bit about that trip and just kind of how that planted a seed for your career today?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so the thing with America, because everybody was always asking, like, what is it like? Why are you so fascinated with America? And it's really started very young for me as like just playing when I was little toys, and I had those little cowboys and the things. It's always like the Western thing, like the cowboy and the Indians when you're a kid. I mean, I guess it's a worldwide thing. Like pretty much every kid has been, influenced by that when they were little boys. But then I started skateboarding when I was like, I think 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It was really the beginning. You're talking like 1986. And there was some stuff in France, and for some reason, the small town where I was in Fontainebleau, they built a half pipe there when I was a kid, and there was this guy that probably came back from America, and he brought back the skateboard in France, and so there was a bunch of young guys in my town that were skateboarding. And so my sister was into it, and so I started a skateboard very young, and starting to like, there was this shop that was ordering, VHS tape from America. I was like the skateboarder, what's happening in California, all those things. And so I was just like watching that as a 10 years old. And so it was all, California, America, skateboard. That was my whole thing until I was 15. So for like 6 years, I was skateboarding every day, constantly.
Cool.
And my uncle, decided to brought me and my cousin to America to do a cross-country road trip when I turned 15. And that was an amazing present and an amazing thing it did for me, because I had no idea what I was about to do, and I was a little anxious because my parents were not really adventurous people. We always been to the same places in vacation, every year, the same house and by the beach, and very, doing the same thing all the time. And all of a sudden I'm here, and my uncle's like, yeah, we'll just rent a car and just go. And I'm like, where do we go?
Did your uncle live in the U.S.? Did he live in the U.S.?
Well, no, he was living in France, but he's always been very much like the opposite of my dad. He's my dad's brother.
Okay.
He's been traveling the world a lot, and so yeah, he was way more adventurous, and I got really first anxious, but then I find myself on the back seat of that car, just crossing the most beautiful landscape I've ever could imagine, and in particular the Grand Canyon.
Oh yeah.
Which I had no idea, because back then what I was waiting for was we make it to San Francisco because I want to go to the van store and get some dance. That was my whole thing. Like, I didn't give a damn about everything else. But at the end of the day, I saw the Grand Canyon, and I saw Monument Valley, and I saw Bryce Canyon, and we even stopped in Durango, Colorado, and I mean all those things that I wasn't really paying attention back then. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was planted in my head, and when I saw the Grand Canyon again when I was like 35, something happened. Like it was like a kind of like something in my mind was just everything got together, and the memories, and it created this amazing inspirational thing. And so that's it. That's why I always talk about this trip as being like the beginning of my love for the West.
Yeah, it's amazing how several of the people that I've talked with on this podcast have had experiences as kids and they didn't really think about it. And then 20 years, 30 years later, all their experiences kind of come together and they look back on this, some childhood experience they had, and it all kind of makes sense. And it sounds like that's what you did, which is really cool. You mentioned wanting to go to the art supply store in San Francisco. Were you always an artist as a kid?
No, I think maybe I misdid it. I was talking about the Vans, like the shoes,
Oh,
skateboard shoes.
Van. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, my accent again.
No. You're
Yeah,
perfect. Well, so
yeah.
you're obviously really good at skateboarding and obsessed with skateboarding. Were you also obsessed with art at that time, or was that something that came later?
Nope, at all. And but again, like when you think back, it was always like the graphics behind the skateboard, and I was always like dreaming about getting a new board, and from different, and they all has very cool artworks in the back. And so I guess this was my first encounter with art, but really before art school, when I studied art school, I was like 20. Before that, I wasn't exposed to art at all. And because yeah, like my parents are were both teacher. My mom is like doctor in Greekish, Latin, ancient mythology, and
Wow.
my dad's a philosopher. My parents were arguing about like on the dinner table about the Socrates and what he would have say or not say. Like, that's my and so but not really artistic. And my dad was working all the time. I've barely seen my dad where he was always in his office working, and my mom was just doing everything. And I just I discovered pretty much everything when I went to art school.
So what made you want to go to art school versus if you really weren't into art all that much? What was the draw of art school?
Well, so it's my uncle again, the same guy. And so so after skateboarding, I started playing music when I was 15 because in America during that trip, my uncle bought us two tape in a gas station, and it was Led Zeppelin 1 and Led Zeppelin 4.
Wow.
And so he was starting to teach us, what's cool about music. And because we were listening to Nirvana and stuff, and he was like, well, that's cool because Nirvana just released their album Nevermind.
Yep.
But he was like, you need to know where that come from. So he bought us those Led Zeppelin tapes, and we started listening to Led Zeppelin. And same, that kind of like echoed, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to play guitar like that. So back in France, I started playing music, and I also find out the girls kind of like you if you play guitar. So I was like,
Kind of like you.
I'm gonna play guitar. So yeah, I started playing guitar, and then starting to be into music like crazy. And I stopped skateboarding, and I was just playing music. And I started the band, and yeah, that's what I was doing. And after graduation high school, I just went into a I didn't know what to do seriously. I just wanted to play music, and I went to university for history, like just history, because that was the only thing that I was okay with.
Sure.
And I did like a month there, and I thought it was really boring. And the students were, I don't know, there was nothing. I wasn't really into the thing, so I stopped. And I went back home, and my dad was like, "What are you gonna do? Like, you're not gonna be a musician? Like, that is nothing." Like, and so I had like a 6 months of like battling with my parents about not knowing what I want to do, and I want to be a musician, but it's not a real job. Blah blah. I mean, that usual thing.
Yeah.
And then my uncle at a family dinner was like, "Well, why don't you go to the Académie Julian, which is a very very amazing art school in France that's been there until the 1876."
Wow.
And it's like my wife did that school, and so you should look into that, because it's not music, but it's art, and maybe you'll because I had interest for like graphic design and stuff like that back then too. And he's like, maybe you can do stuff that you actually gonna like or discover. And so it was a private school. I mean, not yeah, it was you had to pay for going, because mainly the schools in France are free, most of them. But this one was you had to pay. So my parents were like, well, you can do a year of preparatory school, and if you like it or good, maybe you should go to the Art Deco, which is a very big art school too, but it's free. But it's a very hard, how do you say, a contest to get in.
Sure.
So you need to be prepared. And so I did the first year in this art school, and changed my life. I discovered that I had capacity to draw and paint, and I hang out with amazing people and fall in love with an amazing girl that was so good at painting, and she taught me so much, and everything changed, and it was amazing. And then at the end of the year, I did a contest for the Art Deco, but I got accepted, but I didn't want to go. I told my parents, okay, I got it. I did what you guys wanted me to do, but I want to stay in the school because it's the best for me. It was very, very military, kind of like so much work, like a huge discipline, and it really worked for me. I needed that, like having my ass busted.
Did you, when you initially showed up there and they were instilling that discipline in you, did you take to that immediately, or was there any pushback? Did you have any kind of negative reaction to it at first?
No, I took it like that because my uncle warned me. It was like, this is a hard school. Like, they're going to kick your ass, you know. And, I was prepared. Like, I told my band back then, I was like, guys, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play again, because I'm doing this school. My parents are paying for it, It wasn't... And I really, I had a kind of a pressure to like please everybody first. That was the first thing. Like as a, I think I was 19 or something. He had the pressure, and for some reason I wanted to impress everybody. And first my parents, and then my uncle. I was like, I'm gonna show them that I can be really good at that, and I'm gonna do this really good. And the beginning was super tough because I was really bad, and there was some really good student, but I worked my way up.
Well, you've obviously got raw talent, but raw talent only takes you so far, in my experience. I mean, I think you've obviously got extremely good work ethic, and you're able to focus, or else you wouldn't have been able to make it as a professional artist. Was the talent part just a huge surprise when you got there? Because, I mean, when you just started drawing and figured out, wow, I've had this hidden talent for 19 years, I never knew I had it.
Yeah, it really kind of like happened over like 3 months. And because I started the school in September, and I was so bad at the beginning, like, they make you do some crazy exercise. It was like painting, tracing stuff, and like there was like live drawings. There's like academical drawing for like sitting for 8 hours trying to to draw a plaster head, a head in plaster from like 1900. It was just very difficult, and I didn't know. I had no references, and I just figured in the weekends I have to catch up. And every of the guys around me that were good, I started to spot who were the best in the class. There was like 3 or 4 of them, and I was starting to hang out with them and try to understand. And all those guys were into art for a long time already, and I was just like going to museum and studying, Dali, and copying everything I could, like working hard at night. And then in December, we had there was like a first exam for just like to see the first semester. And it was like a 3 hours exercise on inside the class. And we had 3 hours to make an illustration. And they gave us a theme, and we had to do an image. And I came up with something apparently pretty good. And the Monday morning when I show up, my drawing was hanging on the top of the main board where they put all the results with like the maximum mark on it.
Oh, wow.
And the teacher was like, we have, when he came to me and congrats me and was like, wow, that's insane. And it was just the beginning, and then from there I started to be really trustful, and I was like, well, I guess I can do it. And from that time, then I just started to become better and work my way up.
And how long was the school? How many years?
Normally it's 5 years, but I did 4 years because I didn't do the second year of preparatory. I went straight in the first year.
Okay,
Uh,
gotcha.
yeah.
And so when you got out, I read somewhere, and correct me if this is wrong, that you worked for Disney for a while. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, that was. I mean, the thing is, like, so the last year of school, me and my friend, we were very interested in animation. The rest of the guys were into graphic design and typography. That was mostly what was going on in school. A lot of photography. Nobody was doing illustration at at the end of the school, because at the beginning you learn drawing, and then the more you go into school, the more it becomes media oriented and all that. And so we were really into animation, and there was those guys from the Disney studio, because Disney studio was in Paris too. They were working on Tarzan.
Okay.
And they were trying to find young talents to come and do some artwork and stuff like that. So they were following me and my friend for like a year, coming to the school, and they given us like exercise to do and to try to progress. And at the I think 1 year before the end, I did an internship at Disney in background color and layout drawing for like 2 months. I was there, lockout. And that was my dream. Like, I just wanted to work for them. And the big picture was, you're going to go to America to work there because, you can probably do development, like art development.
Yep.
And so that was the big thing. So I did my final project of school. I did a 2-minute animation thing. And the Disney people were like, well, we're going to send you to America. So that was the whole thing. And I was in a band back then. So it was a dilemma for me to be like, why should I keep doing the band, or should I go work for Disney? But then the Disney guys were like, well, you have to actually have 1 year of professional experience in France before we can get your visa going to go to America.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we see you in a year, do your thing, and we see you in 1 year after you have 1 year of experience. And I was like, okay, so I guess I stay one more year here. And I got hired by a 3D studio. They were doing like music videos and stuff like that, really fun stuff. And I started to work like that character design and motion graphics and stuff like this. And my band signed with Sony back then, so we started a tour everywhere. And so the project of Disney kind of fed up. And I told them after a year, like, I'm not interested anymore because I got too much going on.
So was that the same band that you'd been with since you were 15,
Yes.
16?
No, some of the guys are the same, but the band are starting change. And the real band that actually became famous was Playmo, it's called, and we started while I was in art school.
Got it. And so
Yeah.
you went full speed into music, I guess, after that. I mean, getting signed by Sony, that's no small feat. So was music then the next big focus?
Yeah, it was. I kept doing both thing all the time. Like, that was my thing until the end of the band in 2007. I was doing art direction and directing music videos and the band in the same time constantly. And because I never wanted to give up any of the things, because I knew the band will not last forever.
Sure.
And I wanted to have something solid after that.
So how did you manage to do that with the band? Because I imagine there was a ton of touring and
Yeah.
just I've had one of my good childhood friends made it pretty far in the music industry, and it was just amazing how it kind of took over his life. So how did you balance that, or how did you have any time to do anything else other than the music? You just work harder than everybody else, I guess?
No, I don't know. I mean, first of all, my band was French, so we were touring mostly in French-speaking country.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have to tour the world. We toured in Japan and Russia and Eastern Europe, but we didn't have to do crazy tour that some American bands are doing. But we were sometimes playing 5 days a week. It's just we didn't have to travel that far. But I was like, when I was in art school, the 2 years when my band was first album, I was in art school. I was just taking trains at night after a show. I was taking a train overnight to get back to Paris to go in art school in the morning. And then, I might eventually take another train the same evening to meet the band somewhere else.
Did the other guys in the band think you were nuts?
Yeah, they thought it was nuts. But the thing is, we kind of like the band started, like we got attention on the first album because our artworks were pretty fun and pretty cool. And I think everything I learned in art school, I started to apply it right away with the band. And we had a very strong image for a young, metal band. So that was, they knew that was also good for me and for the band was doing.
That's really cool. And that's cool how you were able to kind of keep the art going in the background. Like it's almost like you kept music in the background while you were really focused on art. And then when you really focused on music, you were able to keep the art kind of simmering in the background.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, you have a lot of time when you're on tour actually. And we did 4 albums. So we did 4 tours. And the last albums we were touring in a big tour bus and stuff. So I had my whole setup there, like computer, like sketchbook stuff, and I was working on other projects in the meantime. You have plenty of time the whole day, and I'm not a party guy, so I don't really need to recover.
Yeah, that's convenient.
My days were pretty long, from like 8 a.m. when you wake up and you're in a different town, but you have to wait until 5 p.m. before the sound check. So what do? I'm just working, and that was a good time to put my energy.
That's cool, and that is not the normal story you hear with rock stars.
Well, I don't know what the others are doing, but I'm sure everybody's doing something because the days are pretty long.
Yeah. Well, you see a lot of them, these guys that are big rock stars in their early 30s, and then they flame out, and they're not a good sight at age 40. And it seems like you're 40 now, right?
I am.
Yeah, I think you played the long game there. It worked out for you. So 2007, you said you stopped the band. What led to that decision?
Well, so it was different things, but the first thing is that I again wanted to move to America. That was again always there. And the last album, we came to America to record and to do our music videos and stuff. And so I was spending a lot of time here, and I was already traveling to Texas and all that to take photos, doing documentaries. That was the thing I was doing on my free time. So my fascination for the country was more and more growing, and I needed to make it happen. And as I was mostly directing music videos back then for a lot of different bands and artists in France, and I wanted to do more. I wanted to do a film. That was the thing. So, but I was suffering for some reason in the production and like the industry of cinema, that people were saying, "Oh, you're the singer of Flamo, like you're not really a director."
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. And it comes back to what we were talking at the beginning, where who am I? Am I actually the singer, or am I an artist? Am I a director? It's always that question. And I was like, fuck it. I think I've done my time as a singer, and I wanna focus on making images and making a film and pushing that career further. So we agreed with the band that also we didn't want to become unfamous.
Mm-hmm.
And we stopped at a time where the band was still pretty big, and we were doing big venues and selling records. So it was pretty sad for the fans, but I think it was cool to stop at that time. We didn't experience the "there's nobody tonight" at the show.
Yeah, that takes discipline and guts to do that. I mean, you see whether it's musicians or athletes, most people cannot let it go and go past their prime. That's an impressive decision you made there. So go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, it was tough, but I sometimes felt a little bad afterwards, because I realized I didn't really ask the rest of the band what really was their feeling about it. It was my decision, and from like years I was talking about it. I was like, after the fourth album, we're stopping because I want to, do my stuff. I was pretty selfish about it, and I've been apologizing after a few years to some of the guys, being like, I think I should have, maybe just taken consideration a little bit more what you guys were feeling, and even if everybody's playing tough and everybody was cool and yeah, let's do it. I'm sure, maybe they would have kept going. I don't know. And, but, I did it this way. And,
It worked out.
yeah, it did.
So 2007, did you move to America then?
Not right away. So I was married, back then, and, we, how do you say that? I expected a first child.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was my first daughter, Shalom. She born in 2008. And my ex-wife was starting a career as a singer too, and it was starting to be pretty big in France. I mean, it started work out for her, so she had no possibility whatsoever to move to America. I came to America to actually direct my first feature film in 2010.
Oh, cool.
With French money. We raised money with my producers. And I wrote the script, and we came to Arizona to shoot this film. Because in the meantime, during my travel here as a music video director, I met my actual wife, Patricia, and she was a very good friend first. While I was still married, we were working together all the time, and she brought me to many different places in the West, and she's the one that kind of like brought me back to this whole West thing, by, like proposing location where we could shoot stuff. And she grew up in Arizona. So she brought me to Colorado, Arizona, which is a town where she grew up in, and I shot music videos there. And, I was like, I love it out there.
Yeah.
I want to film there. And so going there, I decided I'm going to write a film and shooting the film in Arizona. And that's what we did in 2010. We shot this feature film.
What was the name of the film?
It's called Johnny Christ.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy portraits of like rural America, and the film didn't release yet. We didn't find I guess we tried to like find shortcuts and did it on our own, because my producer were pretty like guerrilla style type of guys, and yeah, we do it, and then we'll find distribution. And we did it. The little story about, I mean, the funny thing is the main actor is the actual singer of Midland.
Oh, really?
Mark Weistrack. Yeah, I didn't know him back then, but we casted him because we were looking for a guy that kind of looked like the iconography of Jesus.
Uh-huh.
He had long hair and a beard back then, and we hired him for the main role, and he was living in Los Angeles, and we became pretty good friends, and he put himself in the movie like heart and soul, and we spent 2 months in Arizona going through this whole amazing experience, and yeah, it was really fun, like a fun experience, a good crew, and one of the other main actors is Steve Olson. He was a famous skateboarder in the 80s, and Jennifer Nicholson, the daughter of Jack Nicholson, plays in the movie too, and it was fun. Like we just basically came to LA, and we were just like telling everybody, "Hey, we're making a movie." And we raised some money from friends, but it was nothing for making a movie. It was something, but still nothing too. And we just went, and we didn't know what to expect, and it was pretty crazy, but it was fun. It was fun.
Do you, so it's sitting somewhere and it hasn't really been released to the public yet? Is that correct?
Yeah, because when we finished the film, I came back to France, and we edited the film in New York with a guy I can't remember his name. He was the editor for Do the Right Thing and some Spike Lee movie.
Oh, wow.
And he was a great guy. So the editing was super good, and we were really stoked. And then some French company started to propose us some deal, and my producer were always like, "Oh, that's not enough. It's gonna be better. We're gonna sell it to some American studio." Yeah, right. and we didn't sell it to anybody because at the end of the day, everybody was like, "Well, guys, in France they were like, okay, go to America if you think you're gonna find a market there." And then in America, they didn't care about some French dude.
Well, I have a feeling it's going to make its way out one of these days.
Well, maybe.
So,
I mourned it, and I think we all did, and that's what made me decide I'm actually not gonna be a director. So, because it was a beautiful experience, but I figured it was a lot, and I didn't. I didn't want to do another one. I didn't want to write something else and keep going. And especially living in Los Angeles, I realized how many people want to do that, and my interest kind of like faded. And I needed something else in my life, something new and fresh.
so is that when painting came in?
Well, painting came so I was taking photos to document everything I was doing, and before doing the movie, I was documenting demolition derbies.
Really?
Yeah, I was into that thing big time, and so one of the main characters, Steve Olson, in the film, he's a demolition derby driver, and I was friend with some guys in Utah that are organizing demolition derbies, and I was shooting that, and from that I ended up going into a rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
Because you hang out in Oklahoma and looking for demolition derby, looking into the local newspaper, and then there's nothing, but actually there's a rodeo Sunday. Let's check this out. And so here I am going to a rodeo. It was like 2010 and 2011, starting taking photos in rodeo, and then I love it. That's amazing. So I started like going in different rodeos and starting to follow that. But just for myself, it was like as soon as I had free time during music videos, I was going out to like shoot stuff and mostly rodeos. And one day we were in Oklahoma at my wife dad's, and Patricia was like, well, in town there's this Hall of Fame, the Western Heritage Museum. You should check it out because if you like rodeo, you're gonna like that museum. And so I remember it was a morning in 2011. I went on my own because she already went there, and her dad too, so they were not interested in going again. So I went on my own, and I find myself in front of like Remington paintings and Russell and James Reynolds painting, and I'm like, what is this? I missed this. Like, I have a very European knowledge of paintings, but I had no idea of all those painters from 1900s American pioneers. And I spent like 2 hours, and she called me. She's like, "The barbecue's ready. What are you doing?" I'm having an epiphany right now. I'll be right there. Give me a minute. Yeah, so I just left the museum. I was out of my mind, and I came back and I told her, I was like, I need to do that. I want to paint. I want to paint the West because there's everything in those paintings that talk to me, and from the landscape, the lights, the way it's painted, what it tells, the myth, the everything. And Patricia was like, "Well, cool, yeah. I mean, I'm happy you liked it." And so a year or two passed, and I kept doing music videos and all that. And but the idea was in my head. I was like, every Sunday, I was like, I have to stop music video. I need to start painting. And I was pushing it until the day I told Patricia, I was like, we're going to leave Los Angeles, and we're going to go to like your mom, and I'm going to start painting cowboys. And we were directing music videos together, so that was kind of tough for her because she was like, "But what are we doing with music videos?" I was like, "Well, I don't know. I'm kind of over it." and so we moved to Arizona, and I went to the art store and bought a bunch of canvas, and I took a photo of a friend that I had. I dressed him as a cowboy, and I went to this lady I knew from music video that owns a couple of horses, and I had my friend holding the horse. He's not even on the horse because he wasn't a cowboy at all. He's just holding the horse. And I just took photos of him and then went back home and used the photo as reference and stopped my first painting.
Wow.
And it was in the shack of my mother-in-law. And I remember Patricia and her mom coming to check out what I was doing. And they're like, so what is it? I'm like, well, it's a cowboy. And they're like, okay, well, I'll see you. So it was, I think from the outside, it was pretty crazy, like looking me doing, like, because I was deciding I'm gonna do this. That's what I'm doing. And I opened an Instagram account and I started to post a couple of paintings I was doing. I was also doing some drawings with like ink and Native Americans that I found in some books that I had, and I just wanted to do it. It was pouring out of me. I needed to, and I started posting on Instagram. And 1 or 2 months after that, I drove back to LA to go to the Rose Bowl flea market. And it was my friend John Dennis, who's a hat maker. His name is Sam Roberts on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
He was there and he's like, dude, I had no idea you were drawing and doing stuff like that. It's cool. And I'm like, yeah, I've been wanting to do that for a long time. He's like, I know a guy that actually got a hat from me. His name's Logan. He's pretty big in the game and you guys should connect. And I'm like, okay. So I looked at Logan's stuff and it was like amazing. I'm like, damn. So I guess he linked us on Instagram and I didn't hear from Logan for a month, I think. And then I was in Miami to actually shoot another music video because I had to keep doing a little bit because I wasn't making zero money with it.
Yeah.
So I had to keep doing some. And I was in Miami shooting and I received an email from Logan and he's like, hey, we have a gallery in Los Angeles, my brother, and would you like to come and meet us? Because we saw your work and I think we're interested in working with you.
Wow.
I jumped on my chair and I was like,
and how long had you been focused on?
It was 2 months.
2 months. Wow. And what year was this?
Because it was early 2014.
Wow.
Because I moved to Arizona September 2013, and the first months I didn't do anything. So I basically started to paint in November. So November, December, and then January I was in Miami for that campaign thing. And I received that message from Logan. So I came back to LA and I grabbed my 3-4 paintings I had and I put them in the car and I went to Los Angeles. And I met them at the gallery and they looked at the paintings and we talked a little bit and I had no idea what they wanted. And I see Bo, he's taking his checkbook and he's like, how about we buy them and to prove we want to work with you. And I'm like, yeah. I was totally broke, I was so stoked, and I left the gallery, and they were like, okay, so now, if you can give us like 2 or 3 more paintings for next month, that'll be awesome. And I was like, yeah, you'll have the paintings for sure. And I left the gallery, and I called Patricia, and I was like, I got a check.
Could you believe it? I bet you thought you were having a dream.
Yeah, exactly. For the whole thing, it was, I couldn't believe that I could work this way. And so, I drove back to Arizona and started painting and start posting stuff on Instagram and got so motivated. And then they brought my painting to Montana for like a group show. And then from there, and Logan really helped me so much to like make the right moves. And then he talked about me to Joel Peters' gallery in Santa Fe. And so the same thing, that was April, the guy from Joel Peters called me. He's like, hey, would you like to come and show me some of your work? How about in a month? And I'm like, oh, God, that's like huge pressure because this gallery is insane. And I was like, damn. And so I painted 3 paintings and I drove there, met the guy, same. He put the painting on the floor and looked at them for 10 minutes without a word. And then he's like, yeah, take him. Yeah! Second victory. And then from there I started snowballing and I think Instagram really helped me to build a community and get attention from a lot of people, and it was really great.
Yeah, Instagram is how I initially came across you, and your work really stands out on there. I've said that to some of the other artists that I've interviewed, and well, it's amazing to me how people are able to make their work stand out among the thousands, hundreds, thousands, millions of pictures on there. That people scroll through, but um, something about yours are just so stunning. And one of the things that caught my eye the first time I looked at it were the clouds,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you get that comment a lot. How did you? How did you even? It's kind of a stupid question, but how did you learn how to do clouds like that? It's. I mean, they look like photographs, and I've never seen anybody else be able to paint clouds that well.
Well, thank you. Well, I don't know actually. It's just I don't know. I've because even in Disney they told us some technique for like blending stuff, and but I wasn't really painting clouds when I was there. I just started painting clouds when I painted cowboys, and
Mm-hmm.
is yeah, well, the first image I've done was clouds. I remember painting them, and they were a little rough, and then the second painting when I put cloud, I'm like, well, the one before you can actually see the brush strokes, and I need to like blend that better. And a cloud can't be I don't know how you say that, but a cloud is so it's vapor. It's nothing. So it has to be super subtle and very light and very fresh. And so you have to be so gentle with the way you put the paint in it. So I just figured it out by like watching the clouds and then just trying to make it as real as possible, and starting taking photos of clouds as much as I could. When I was in Arizona, it was cool because I had a mountain right behind the house, so there was always like thunderheads and stuff out there. So I got a lot of good references from that time.
Um, so when you showed up, in America, I think one of the things that's unique about your work, obviously, is that you're an outsider. You're not from the West, whereas some of these, a lot of Western artists, they grew up there, they've been here for 5 or 6 generations, and I think you've got an advantage in coming in with a unique perspective because you're not from here and it's all new. What kind of how has being new to the West influenced your work compared to say some of your peers who grew up here?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's there's probably pros and cons, and I can feel it, and I've been really working hard to try to fill up the how do you say the missing thing, or the lack of culture that I could have in the West, in the cowboy culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but definitely I arrived with passion,
Mm-hmm.
and with because it's something that I love since I'm a kid, and the westerns and the cowboy movies and all that. It's really so that was the main thing. It's my fascination and my will to do it just because I love it. There is no more reason than that.
Yep.
And of course, at the beginning, I had some guys because I did mistakes. In my paintings, I would put the rope on the wrong side, or paint a saddle that's like not a good saddle, or do things that a cowboy will laugh at it when you see it, and I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand some people got a little aggressive about it, like, hey, dude, if you got to do that, do it right. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my best, but there's a lot to gather, and there's a lot to understand, and because it's not just about the gears and all that. It's also about the way I paint. So my concern is a lot about good composition, good light, good things. But then yeah, you have to make sure everything is right. So it took me a minute to really read as much as I can, go out there, spend time with horses, with cowboys, as much as I can, even if I would love to spend way more time. But the time on the easel is so big that it's hard for me to be like, oh, I'm going to go for a week and just, ride. I can't do it. I mean, not
Mm-hmm.
hopefully in the future, but now I can't. But so I do what I can to actually, yeah, get everything right, and yeah.
I feel like being humble and being able to work hard is kind of a universal language,
Hmm.
and I think that is very it's valued here in the West. And I'm not from here. I'm from the East Coast, and my whole family's been on the East Coast forever, or since the 1600s or whatever. And well, I think when I arrived, I felt like somewhat of an outsider, but I think a lot of these people, particularly in the ranching world, and they'll accept anybody as long as they're humble and willing to work hard. And it sounds like that's you obviously work very hard, and you're obviously humble in learning their culture to be able to paint it correctly. So I think that says a lot about you. I saw I think it was a clip on YouTube or somewhere where you were talking about a Native American painting that you did and how you went out to the reservation and spent time with them to make sure you got it right. Can you talk a little bit about that and just kind of your process for ensuring that these things are historically accurate?
Yeah, so yeah, I have a lot of people asking me, why don't you paint more Native Americans? And I answer that first of all, my encounter with Western art was cowboys, and my culture for Native American was very poor, and my interest also. I didn't have interest back when I was a kid about the Indians. I was into the cowboys. What I don't know. It's just the way it was. And but then yeah, when I started to study American history and all that, then you start facing the reality of everything, and it changed my mind a lot about a lot of things. And but I figured that as a French white man, it would be hard to just come up and be like, oh, I'm just going to start painting native just because it's cool. They look cool. They have cool clothes. I can't do that. Like, it's impossible. I'm way too, how do you say? I don't know. Intègre in French, but I don't have the word. Anyway, I couldn't do it. So I was like, if I start painting native, first of all, I have to meet some because I have to get the stories, and I have to bond with some and start feeling a connection. It's important for me because I can't paint what I don't know. And so I went to different places. I went to the Havasupai Reservation. I went, Monument Valley. I spent time there, met some guys, did some horse rides, and then I went to Kansas, where I met some Lakota, and that was I went twice, and I met a bunch of really cool guys. One guy I met, his name's Moses, and he's a Lakota chief, and he just I didn't spend that much time with him, but the time I spent with him, just hear me talking about, he always has stories about everything and wise words, and it's been really amazing. And then I've been able to photograph him on a horse. He is an amazing horse rider, and that really, when I went back home with all my photos and this experience, I start feeling like, yeah, maybe now I can, envision maybe one painting. And I started working on one piece of just, Crow Indians. And it took me so much time to make research about every little detail. That I was so drawn into it, and it was fascinating but very exhausting to like get it right and making sure when the image release, you're not somebody that's like gonna text me and like, dude, that's possible. What did you put on this guy's head? It's the wrong feather, and it was really scary. But I checked a lot, and I have there's a guy in France. He's a comic artist. I think he's in his 60s or something like that. Michel Blanc Dumont is an amazing, and he's a specialist of Native American, but like super, super, super sharp. And so I sent him my image before painting it, like my Photoshop mockup, and he helped me like changing stuff and then making sure everything was right. So yeah, that was the only one I've done so far, and then I just did last year. I did a little painting for the Dakota pipeline. I just helped. I gave the money to a foundation that was helping raising funding for the Standing Rock.
Got it.
That was just a little piece, nothing crazy.
Cool. One other question about your art. I'm always interested in artists' process, what their day looks like. Some treat it like a 9 to 5 job and they show up and they just get to work every day. Some wait for inspiration to hit them. What does your day look like? And do you have a process for creating these paintings?
Yeah, my day are pretty busy work. I wake up very early, like, usually 5:36. And I go to work out in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, from like until like 7:30 I work out. And come back from workout, I get my breakfast going. I call my daughters on FaceTime. And then I start painting around 9:30, and I paint until usually 6.
Wow.
And I paint all day. I take like 1 or 2 naps a day for like 10-15 minutes. I nap with a timer.
Otherwise, you'd be napping for hours, I guess.
Maybe, I don't know, but I just know that I need to sleep like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I do 2 breaks in a day of 15 minutes nap just to like get back. And sometimes when it's really hot in LA in the summer, I even, take a shower after each nap just to get it going again. It's like give you a new breath in the day because, there's so much time spent on the painting that, but then there's also an attention that you can, I couldn't paint more than that a day because then you just start messing up.
Oh yeah.
So,
That's a
yeah,
long time, man. That's impressive.
I mean, I don't know. I paint, between 6 to 8 hours a day, and I don't paint on Sunday. Sometimes I paint on Saturday, but not all the time. Last year, my daughters were living in LA, so I spend more time with them than on the weekends and stuff. And I was going to pick them up at school every day, so I was kind of like breaking my days.
Sure.
But I figured it out. Now they're back to in France, so I have my days. I'm just spending my weekends and evenings with my wife.
How much, if you do not exercise in the morning, does that really mess up your ability to paint all day? I know with me, exercise first thing is mandatory, and if I don't do it, my whole day is much more of a challenge than it should be.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I really started to go back in shape like 6 months ago because after a few years of painting, I was starting to get really like softy and like
It happens.
having back problems and neck problems and headaches from like neck pain and stuff like that. And I went to the doctor, like, what's wrong with me? And I just realized that I was getting older and I needed to do something. And so I was running every morning, but I guess it wasn't enough. So I started to just go to the gym, and now I'm going to the gym pretty much every day, and just not the weekend, but I need it. I need it. It's impossible otherwise now.
Yeah, same here. I need it for the physical aspect, and I need it for the mental aspect.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it just makes you feel good.
It really does. It's pretty amazing, and it's pretty alarming how many people do not exercise. I feel like everybody needs to in one way or the other. It's not necessarily the greatest, funnest thing in the world, but man, the benefits are just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we've already been talking for like an hour, and so I had this long list of questions, and we'll have to do a part 2 at some point. But I have these kind of rapid fire, quick questions that I've been asking everybody, and I've gotten really interesting answers, and it's fun to compare them. And so I want to run through a few of those with you, then I'll let you get back to your important work. But do you have any favorite books that you've recommended to people or that are particularly special to you about the American West or really about any subject at all?
Well, I've been, when I say reading now, it's wrong. I should say listening. Because I unfortunately have no time to be sitting on my couch reading, but I have a lot of time to listen. So I'm listening to audiobook all the time. And I started like 3 years ago with Desert Solitaire course, which is a classic that was recommended to me by my friend Jeremy Lipkin. And from Desert Solitaire, I started to listen to so many others about preservation and the West, and I don't know, just really enjoyed. Did you read The Silent Spring?
I did a long time ago, and my wife used to work in the environmental world, and so that was kind of the Bible for all of her colleagues, and so
So
I
yeah,
need to reread it.
also an American Idea, The Making of the National Park by Kim Hickox. You read that?
No, I have not read that, but I'll
Very
add it to the list.
yeah. And what else? I'm listening to Miracle Mile right now.
The Emerald Mile.
Yeah, the Emerald Mile. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. That's funny because I had Duke Beardsley on here, and he called it the Miracle Mile as well.
Really?
But that's a great
Because the
book.
area in LA right by my place is Miracle Mile.
Yeah.
The Emerald Mile. It's amazing. I had no idea this whole like thing with the dam and oh my god, it's I'm into it right now. I'm just loving it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good one. That's one of the best ones I've read in a while. I'll be interested to see what that guy writes next because I think that was his first big time book, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, those are great. I'll add those to the list.
I read Lassoing the Sun.
Yeah, what's
That's good.
that?
Yeah,
Which one was that?
Lassoing the Sun.
No, I have not read that either.
Yeah, it's from Mark Woods.
Cool.
I think Mark or Eric Woods or Mark Woods. Lassoing the Sun. Yeah, it's a guy like bringing his family to. I mean, he was trying to escape like the everyday life, and they're doing a year with his family in all the national park, and so it's like talking about relationships and family, but mostly also the elements and all that. It's really cool.
Very cool. I'd never even heard of that. I'll add that one too. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have links for people listening. I'll have links to all these in the notes so you can click through and get them.
Okay.
Oh, this will be a good one for you. Do you have any favorite documentaries or films?
Of course I do.
Yeah.
Related to the West, I have to say that I really enjoyed the Unbranded one,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really amazing. And I've tried to get in touch with them even when they were in it, because my dream would have been to try to meet them somewhere and do a couple of pictures and maybe do some paintings from it, but it didn't happen. But yeah, that was a really great one. But I also listened to a lot of PBS documentary on YouTube, but that old, more like old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The making of the railroad or the Indian Wars or all those. I'm really into those like all historical things because I there's a lot to learn about American history, and I'm really trying to make it my priority to learn a lot about it and become a specialist.
Yeah, same here, man. It's but my problem is the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything.
I know. It's always bringing you to something new, and you're like, "Oh my god, yeah."
What is your favorite location in the West? Is there one particular place? It could be a town, a particular ranch you've been on, some landmark like the Grand Canyon. Is there anywhere that stands out as your absolute favorite place?
It's hard because they're all good
Yeah.
for different reasons, but I would say a sunset on Dead Horse Point is something.
Yeah.
I really like the Canyonland Park a lot.
I do too.
Also because it's a little less touristy in some time than the Grand Canyon. But I mean, the Grand Canyon is also insane. I really like Monument Valley. It's less known. Like I feel like a lot of people, I mean, especially here in LA, we're gonna talk about Monument Valley. A lot of people haven't been.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's such an iconical place, and there's an atmosphere when you're out there, something incredibly strong that comes from the earth that you can feel when you spend time there and you're a little bit out and you don't hear anybody or you don't see any cars. It's amazing. I recommend that place.
Yeah, I need to spend more time down there in the Southwest. Moab, Canyonlands, Arches, all those places. They're just so great.
Yeah.
And this will be an interesting one. What is the most powerful experience you've ever had in the outdoors? And by powerful, it could be scary, memorable, funny, all of the above.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've had a bunch, but in terms of like strong, I would say actually that's funny because I was just talking about Monument Valley, and I was painting a plein air in Monument Valley, and I was alone with a friend of mine, but he was just driving, he wasn't painting. And we kind of like took the car and went somewhere a little out, and it was not a high season, so it was pretty empty. And I was painting, and at a certain moment, there's been like a silent that just happened, but it was more than silence.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost felt like I was not in this world anymore. And I turned around after 3 seconds of what the hell? And I looked at my buddy, and he was pretty far from me, but I waited for like 2 seconds, and then I was like, "Did you hear that?" And he was like, "Yeah." And we don't know what happened, but we both heard the silence.
That's weird.
Insane. It was everything stopped, but more than just, oh, there's no noise. It was stronger, and it came from deep. It was insane. And so that's why I'm talking always about Monument Valley as a trippy place, because I experienced that there. It was like, wow.
Yeah, that sounds intense.
Yeah, it was intense. And another time I told a different adventure, but I got one of the most scary things I've experienced. I've been followed by people threatened to kill us.
Really? By people?
Yeah, people, like 3 people. It was a super crazy story. Back when I was doing documentaries, when I was shooting people, we were in it wasn't is a Texas story okay, or it's not? It's
yeah, definitely. Especially if it involves death threats.
I mean, it was not even Texas, it was Louisiana. We were close to a place called La Pointe Coupée in Louisiana.
What part of Louisiana? Like, is that southwest?
So La Pointe Coupée is between Lafayette and it's like south of Lafayette.
Okay, yeah, I've spent some time in Louisiana and I got a book full of crazy stories from there.
Oh yeah, by the Mississippi, and it's funny because La Pointe Coupée in French means the tip cut, and so we were there and we were just hanging out trying to find some interesting people to portrait. That was the idea, and we run into this like guys. They were just drinking beer on their truck, and there's like an interesting girl with them, like interesting looking, and we were like stopping and we're like, hey guys, would you be cool if we take photos of you, or just I had like a film camera, and so it was before internet and all that.
Yeah.
And so the it was a little different. People were not like, what are you gonna do with it? Put them on YouTube? Back then. So the guys were cool. We're like, well, we pay you. We pay sometimes like $50, and they're like, oh, you don't need to do that. Just grab us some beers. So we bought them beer. We go by the Mississippi border, and it was a nice light. And I'm starting to shoot. I mostly wanted to shoot this girl because she was really interesting looking, not like hot looking, but very like something on the face. So I started to take photos and stuff, and that's cool. We're done. Like, okay, well, we're about to go, and my friend gave his number to the girl. And so the 3 guys, I guess, checked this out. And we leaving, and like 10 minutes after we're gone, the telephone rings, and it's the girl, and she's like, you guys gonna need to come back and pay us. And I'm like, well, we said we wanted to pay you, but you didn't want to. You said you wanted beer, so we bought you some beers, and so now we're leaving. And she's like, no, it's not possible. You have to come back right away. And we're like, okay, right. So we hang off the phone. She's calling again, so we stop answering, and then all of a sudden we're on a small road. There's a car passing us, and it's them. Holy, in a truck, like in a movie,
Yeah.
And we're like, fuck. So my friend like take a first turn on the road, and they are coming back in another road in front of us. And I'm like, shit, and they keep calling and stuff. And so we're turning at some point, and the girl calls back, and she's like, that's a dead end, fucker. And we start driving, and it becomes a dirt road and a private property, and we start driving through. Like, a private property, like, don't trespass. We start driving with our, like, rental car in, like, a dirt road. Of course, back then, we just had those, like, GPS, the massive GPS on the dashboard, and so the GPS has no more connection, anything, and we start driving through, and we ended up like exiting from the other side and arriving on another place and a gas station, and we exit the car and we thought maybe they were gone, and we were so scared. Like, seriously, I filmed. We had a little TV camera and I filmed the whole thing. We were thinking it was the end of the day. So they didn't find us again that day, but my friend kept having phone calls from those people for a year.
Holy cow.
Sometimes the guy was like calling and he's like, dude, I know where you live. I'm going to end your life. It's crazy. So that was fun, Louisiana, but that was before the painting and all that. So it's not really.
No, that's a good story. And I've spent time down there, and that I believe every word of it. I was very scared for my life a few times down there. I mean, oh man, that's a good one. All right. Well, so last question that I generally ask people is, if you could make a request of the people who listen to this, and it's people who love the American West, and whether it's through art, athletics, ranching, conservation, if you could offer some words of advice or ask something of them, does anything come to mind other than don't get girls' numbers in the backwoods of Louisiana?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can advise anything, but yeah, the only thing I would say is let's try to connect all together more, and let's try to do things together more. I feel like there's a lot of people with the same interest, and I still think there's not enough done about I don't know. Like we were talking last night with Steven when we did a show 2 years ago in LA it was called Far West.
Mm-hmm.
And we just got together, and there was also Corey. His name is Bandit Photographer on Instagram, and we invited a Bree from New Mexico. Her name is Palomino Chimino on Instagram. Everybody, like photographer, Patricia was in the show too. We just got all together and decided to put images on the wall that were connected with the West.
Mm-hmm.
We did that in LA. Like 300 people showed up.
That's awesome.
So many people, we had no idea, but just people were like stoked that something related to the West was happening in LA, and it's because it's not enough. And yesterday, same, I was talking with Steven about maybe doing workshop in his land and bringing cowboys there, and there is so many things we can do to just keep it alive and make things happen and share experiences. And I'm really. So really something Patricia and I want to do in the future is maybe getting a place somewhere in the West and starting, doing stuff like creating special events, special things where creative stuff, where people can get together and make things happen, whatever they are.
Yeah.
But that's my message. So
that sounds great. And maybe the Steven that he's referring to is Steven Smith, who I interviewed a while back. And maybe you could team up with Steven on his ranch property, because that could be a cool place for something like that to happen.
Exactly. That's the idea.
Awesome. Well, I know you've got an art show coming up, a solo art show. So I'd love for you to tell people about that, and then tell people how they can connect with you either online or on social media.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Mark Maggiori. I guess it'll be written on the podcast.
Yep.
And that's my Instagram. And I'm gonna advertise a lot for the show. I've already started. I recommend. I mean, I hope people from LA will be able to make it. We're trying to make it special. I have a big bucket with probably 500 brushes that are used in it, because I've never threw a brush. I always put it in that bucket.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring the bucket to the show, and people will be free to grab one.
Cool.
So the fun stuff like that. And we're going to have, posters for sale at the show. I'm going to bring some postcards to just take them for free with my artwork on it. And of course, the original paintings will be on display. But yeah, the show is going to be a nice event. I hope people can make it. It's December 9th.
Awesome, and I'll have links to that. But, man, thank you so much. This is really fun. Great to chat with you. I look forward to hopefully meeting you in person one of these days.
Yeah, same here. Okay. Thank you so much, man, for the time.
Hey, it's Ed again. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast, and thanks for listening to that particular episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Before you go, I've got 3 quick things. Number 1, if you like the podcast, please do me a huge favor. Either pass it along to a friend who may be interested, share it on your social media, and or go to iTunes and give it a 5-star review. All those things would mean a lot to me, and they would really help to spread the word about the podcast. Number 2, if you've listened to many of these episodes, you know that I love reading and I love talking about books. Every other month, I send out a quick email with a few books that I've recently read and highly recommend. The subjects are varied, but they're pretty much all nonfiction with an emphasis on history, biographies, adventure narratives, and topics related to the American West. There are no sales pitches for ranches, no spam, no other kind of nonsense, just books. So if you'd like to sign up for the list, head to Mountain and Prairie/reading, or just go to Mountain and Prairie and there's a massive tab at the top that says book recommendations. Click on it. There are a ton of good books that I've read. Some of the old email lists are on there. You can go crazy. There are a lot of books. And finally, if you know anyone I should interview for the podcast, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. All my contact info is at mountainandprairie.com, and I'm on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. So feel free to reach out. I'd love to have some recommendations and suggestions of interesting people I should meet. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.